Most of us know that science as a discipline exists, and in that discipline there are many subjects. Some of us also believe and know that consciousness exists, and all of us are subjects in that consciousness. But not very many of us study the science of consciousness. Well, we have one such special guest who does study that in our studio today. Please welcome Prof.AK Mukhopadhyay, who is the head of the Department of the Study of Laboratory Medicines at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Professor, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
So you are a pathologist, that's your specialty. Now from studying life at the cellular level to studying consciousness at the cosmic level, how did this move happen?
I had a background from my childhood to develop a science of consciousness, Brahmology, Brahma Vigyan, like that. Okay. So I was thinking of when biology, cosmology, so I thought there will be a Brahmology. So I had a childhood desire to develop it.
Okay.
That was the first thing to. But then I lost in the medical sciences and I started looking at the consciousness of tissue, consciousness of cell, consciousness of the human being. In my MD thesis, I was studying the cerebral cortex structure, ultrastructure under electron microscopy in hydrocephalic rabbits. This is experimental study.
Okay.
So I used to produce hydrocephalus, then sacrifice those rabbits at certain interval and study the cerebral cortex. And there I found the neurons. Neurons has axon and dendrite. Axon takes the message away from neuron and dendrites bring the message to the neuron. Now, in the cerebral cortex, it has 6 layers of shell. There is nothing separation, but cells are arranged in layers.
Okay.
And the most obvious shell is the pyramidal neuron. It is a pyramidal shape.
Okay.
And one can see the dendrites arising from the apex of the cell and going towards the top. So that is my question, that where are they going? From the they are not going down to the periphery, but they are going up towards the upper layer of the cerebral cortex, towards the outer side, and there most of the dendrites forms a interlacing mat,
Okay.
which could be antennae, I thought, which could act as an antennae to get to receive. At that time when it came to me 1982-83, the information was not that, the word or science or technology was not that prevalent. So maybe some higher energy, something it has been receiving from above cortex.
Okay.
So so in after my MD, when I passed, this question started boggling me, and then I coined the term. The term came to me, actually not I coined the term, supracortical consciousness. It is not within the cortex, but it is just outside the cortex, touching the cortex, on the cortex. It is not, of course it is spreading to the cosmos,
Okay.
but it is on the cortex. And there my thinking was corroborated by Sri Aurobindo's view that sitting on the mother's force is sitting on the head.
Right.
Mother's force is sitting on the head, so or acting on the head. So, but at that time I did not know Sri Aurobindo's literature. So when I wrote my first pamphlet type books, at that time computer was not there, nothing was there. So there are 5 articles I wrote, a small book of 25 pages, booklet. So I first printed it and I distributed it to all my friends, residents, doctors. So there I say the states of consciousness, a holistic hypothesis, supracortical consciousness, and existing reality.
Okay. And how was it received?
I am disciple of a realized guru from Bengal,
Okay.
Akhanda Mandaleswar Sri Sri Swami Sarupananda Paramahansadev. My parents were his disciple, and then I also took Diksha with him, from him. But I did not know anything about spirituality at that time, but only lovable, lovable interaction between him and me. He was older than my grandfather in age. So, that was probably I was imbibing the spirituality from his company many times, and connecting these two, these things, consciousness came to my mind
From there, okay.
from there only. So, all source of my consciousness, I say that it is because of probably my guru, who was always conscious and awake.
Wonderful. So when you wrote your initial findings and you were so passionate about them, that 25-page booklet, and you distributed it to your friends,
Right.
what were their reactions like?
One of my juniors said, "You have become immortal." That was my one friend's reaction.
Okay.
So, everybody was really wondering that how could I write in that stage when everybody is busy with the medicine, and it is something new,
Right.
the supracortical consciousness. So, I stare it like that: brainstem consciousness, limbic consciousness, cortical consciousness, and then the next steps we are evolving that towards supracortical consciousness. Not every brain will be able to do it right now, but at least probably I got a touch or experience unknowingly. That 25 pages booklet did not stop me writing,
Right, right.
and with that booklet I got the consultant position. I became lecturer job.
Okay.
And then I started writing another book on the same subject, the dynamic wave of supracortical consciousness. What did I mean by supracortical consciousness? You see, it has a behavioral expression. As a materialistic, as a scientist, as a doctor,
Okay.
you cannot just say it is supracortical consciousness. So, how will you say that it is supracortical?
So it's mappable. You can map it.
It has a behavioral expression to start with, and I clearly said that it is love. The behavioral manifestation of supracortical consciousness is love. Characteristic of supracortical consciousness is its inexhaustibility. Within
Okay.
cortical limits. Doctors talks about genes also, DNA genes.
Yes.
So, if I say that is love, the second chapter of that small booklet is genetic basis of love. You cannot love music or a flower unless you have genes for it. So, this is another dimension opened up. That means that supracortical consciousness was getting biologized at that time in my body, and from that experience because it is something new, it was nowhere else at that time.
Okay.
Now many people may talk about it, but very few people talk about it, but at that stage 1984, 85, nobody even thought of it that there is a genetic basis of love. In that chapter, this is 3-4 pages chapter, but there I wrote that the biochemistry of love runs parallel to the biochemical machineries of the gene expression, and the missing links are to be found out.
Okay.
But when you are in love, there is a change in the biochemistry of your body or cells,
Yes.
and it runs parallel, or connection is not available even now.
Right.
It runs parallel to the biochemical machineries of gene expression,
Okay.
and these missing links are to be found out.
When you went into this and you started talking about such things, and today a lot of people are working across the world on saying that the consciousness in the brain, what are the linkages, which rules what is superior, and also understanding that the consciousness is all pervading and the brain is a tool for the consciousness. You have come up with similar findings?
No, I never ascribed consciousness arising from the brain.
Right.
The modern neuroscience, even neuroscientists, they are thinking that the consciousness arises out of brain.
Right.
I never had that such impression any time. You see, brain neither produce consciousness nor can use consciousness. It is consciousness which uses brain for its manifestation. Here there is a direction in brain research different than the existing things. You see, why of all the cells of the body, consciousness concentrated on the brain as an organ. Consciousness is everywhere,
Right.
in every cell. Every cell is conscious, even amoeba is conscious, a plant cell is conscious. in its own level. So, there are levels of consciousness, so
Okay.
manifestation, but in the neurons or 100 billion neurons, 10 to the power 11, 1 followed by 11 0, 10 to the power 11 neurons, why consciousness has concentrated on this universe of neurons or the galaxies of neurons.
Okay.
Okay, that is the question we have to ask. And there I think again thinking that if you express it, what is the reason for consciousness philia of neurons and neuronophilia of consciousness. That is the research frontier in neuroscience, not to find out neural correlates of consciousness or neural correspondence of consciousness. Why of all the cells of the body, neurons go and love consciousness, and of leaving all the cell aside, why consciousness concentrate on neuron for its manifestation. So, there should be a mutual attraction for each other, and what could be the biological reason for it.
Okay.
One of the biological reason is the microtubules.
Okay. It's in the structure.
Microtubules are the cytoskeleton,
Okay.
and these microtubules, they form the spindle when the cell divide.
Okay.
In mitotic time, mitosis time, the cell. Now, neurons do not divide or rarely divide. So, the cytoskeleton of the neurons are very much stable, more stable than the other neurons, other cells of the
Other
body.
cells. Okay.
Probably the microtubules are best suited for manipulating information. I will not say consciousness, I will not say consciousness. I say the microtubules are best suited, their structures, their engineering architecture of the microtubules, the functional things, they are more suited for holding the information.
Okay.
And information is very close to consciousness. This is another aspect has opened up from me only.
Professor Mukhopadhyay, when we speak of consciousness and we speak of thought and we speak of the brain, now the role of thought, people have different thoughts. People, if brain is a tool, then everybody has a brain. Does the consciousness differ because thoughts differ and the tool is common?
Neuroscience will explain it in terms of the connectivity,
Okay.
connectivity of different neurons. But you see that is, if that is the hardware, mind is the software, and consciousness is the software.
Okay.
The mind is the hardware, consciousness is the software. So, we have to go the subtle to subtle level.
Okay.
And in relation to brain, I am talking of relation to brain, and there is another wonder in the brain, that why such sensitive neurons are surrounded by 7 to 10 times in its number by glial cells, and this glial cell concentration is much more in the cerebral cortex than any other part of the brain, or in the peripheral ganglions. Peripheral ganglions, they do not have any glial cells.
Okay.
The peripheral collection of nervous neurons, they call ganglia.
Right.
Ganglia. The ganglia do not have glia, probably because they are not concerned with the information processing. They are just transmit the signal.
Okay.
If it, say here I make a distinction between the signal handling and the information handling.
Okay.
We will come to science of information sometimes during the discussion.
Okay. This whole bit about how the consciousness pervades every cell, every being, is common, yet unique to an individual. So, is it the same consciousness? Does one divide consciousness because consciousness is supposed to link? How does one understand it more in more layperson terms?
Yes, it is told that consciousness is one, homogeneous,
Right.
and the heterogeneity has been introduced by the brain.
Okay.
See, brains are different.
Okay.
Brains are different. Now, psychologists will say minds are different. So, there is a brain mind. Then the biologist will say the life is different, because we put on in different lifestyles, so our thoughts are different. A mystic will say because our self are different.
Ah.
So, we have been using 4 terms so far, and the information scientist will say because the different information it is processing. So, the difference is created because of consciousness, self, mind, life and information.
Yes.
You see, there is a dance of 5 on your head. Now, they are local, but simultaneously non-local. You cannot localize them anywhere.
Which is the self and all the 5 things that you talk.
Self, mind, life, consciousness and even information. Information here, there, everywhere, nowhere. So, it is moving.
So, it is local yet non-local.
Simultaneously non-local.
Okay.
So, this is very funny. Now, how these non-local things become local, that is frontiers of research in consciousness.
Okay.
How non-local things become local,
Right. Right.
is we do not know.
Right. And
Now, if you just ignore the existence of mind, self, no, these are all imagination. No, no, no. I am sitting here, so I have a self, and my working instrument is mind.
right.
So, I have a mind. I am alive. So, I have life,
Yes.
self, and everything is being done on the background of consciousness.
Yes.
Consciousness is the ground on which all these players are playing, and information has come. So, I am playing with information, borrowed, created, new. So, I have not coined any new term. You see, these are all terms are used. Myself, self-organizing system,
Right.
in
We
the
talk
science.
about
So, we
all the
talk
time.
about
Yes.
life, we talk about life science,
Yes.
mind, there is psychology, information science, technology, consciousness is a science. So, I have not used any new terms, but these 5 makes the puzzle piece, not one,
Okay.
and we do not know any of them. You tell me, we do not know details of information, we do not know details of self, we do not know details of mind, what it is, we do not know details of life, consciousness is so far away.
Right. So, tell me, why is it so important to find the link, study it, get more detailed information? Does it improve us as people? Does it improve the quality of our lives? Does it help us understand our own nature better? How does it help?
Colin McGinn, an American philosopher, he says that as monkeys cannot understand quantum mechanics, so our brain is not mature enough to understand consciousness at this stage.
Okay.
It is called cognitive closure theory, but I think he is right, but he is incomplete in that sense that he thought that brain is not evolving. If he thinks so, I do not know the exact way he thinks about the brain, but brain has been evolving. Any organ or any structure which acts locally and communicate non-locally reserve the ability to evolve.
Absolutely.
Act locally, communicate non-locally,
Yes.
reserve the capacity to evolve.
True. And the brain is a prime example of that.
Right.
And while we want to limit it and call it our brain,
Yes.
it's actually a tool moving us towards limitless frontiers.
Limitless. One scientist, philosopher, he thought that okay, let us take all the neurons of the brain and make a neural network
Okay.
exactly like brain, one by one, simulating. So, we will get consciousness. He says that if it is neuron, and we will be one day the human being will be put all these 10 to the power 11 neurons, 100 billion neurons in the similar network as in the human brain. So, we will know what is consciousness. I said, why you have to try so much? A person was alive as a doctor and I saw a person is dead. Only remove the life. Right. All the brain is there, neurons are there, the microtubules are there, connectivity is there, only life is not there.
So you have the same prototype there,
There,
without consciousness.
How can you make consciousness there?
How
No, you
simple.
cannot make.
Yeah.
Every neuron is alive and individually conscious, because it is a cell.
Right.
Now, what we are studying in the brain is the collective emergence
Okay.
of what we call my consciousness,
Right.
brain bound consciousness. I will say brain bound
Brain bound
consciousness.
Right. So consciousness, how is it created? Is it divisible? Does it move into fragments? You know, people talk of people taking birth, rebirth, people coming into a collective consciousness. So what is, you know, again, the limited brain is working and wanting to ask this question, but does the consciousness grow or does it get refined? Are there stages of consciousness? How does that happen?
If you work with consciousness within you, of course consciousness get refined. Just like you play music and work with it, it gets refined, everything.
Okay.
You practice anything, you get refined. So if you work with consciousness in your brain and you start watching it, working with it, it gets refined and you become a better human being, of course.
Okay.
You definitely becomes a better human being when you start working with your own consciousness. Same way, if you start working with the consciousness of a child who loves you, who cares for you, who listens to you, same thing the guru disciple. So their consciousness is also getting refined and elevated, but to get stabilized as a being consciousness, it takes time.
Okay. All right.
So we have a brainstem being, a limbic being,
Yes.
a cortical being,
Yes.
and then we are evolving towards supracortical being.
Professor Mukhopadhyay, what is the genetic expression of the refinement of consciousness, or is there one?
Now, many biologists have turned into this direction at this stage. We thought when we were student or in early stage of our career, even as a faculty, we thought that DNA is final. Even God has been abbreviated as generator of DNA.
Yes.
So DNA is the final, genes.
Right.
But there are many studies now where the genes are not the final. Of course, it is the core, but it is not final. Why? Several epigenetic mechanisms have come up, several, 4, 5 mechanisms where you can change the inheritance without changing the sequence of the genes. Where when one can change the inheritance, inherited characteristic without changing the sequence of the genes.
So what changes?
Now, this is a chemical changes like DNA methylation, histone modification. I am not going into the details for this, but at least 5 mechanisms have been found out where this is called epigenetic mechanism acting on the genes which change the inheritable character of the gene. This is one. Second is that this is more profound, is that DNA information relationship. Conventional science thinks that DNA carries information. DNA carries information.
Right.
So DNA is the vehicle of information. Information is the driver which is driving the DNA.
Right.
It is not, it is carrying, it is an active driver.
Okay.
So the information content of DNA changes. Now 98.5% of the DNA function we do not know, because junk DNA. But now the function of those junk DNA sequence have been revealed in many aspects.
Okay.
And this DNA this junk DNA which does not transcribe into mRNA or messenger RNA. Even the drug resistance tuberculosis has come out of a mutation out of that area. So, bacteria are evolving by changes in this area, non-coding DNA.
Okay.
So, this is just like your dark matter, dark energy in cosmology. This so much of DNA, the function we do not know. Then Barbara McClintock, he was a Nobel laureate lady.
Right.
So, she said that genes jump, gene jumping theory, the fluidics of the DNA. So, sequence of the DNA changes, how, when, exactly not known, but it changes the grammar or the language the DNA is expressing.
Okay.
So, the DNA itself is a not very static entity.
Okay.
Then come to go more profound. People used to say DNA is life, but Professor Prigogine, he said conformity of the DNA is life. It is not the DNA as a chemical, but DNA conformity is life.
Okay.
So, it is a special conformity which makes it is life. Now, so DNA as a molecule, DNA as a chemical, DNA as an informational molecule, DNA as a replicating molecule, replicating outside the body. In a thermocycler machine, you can replicate DNA, PCR machine.
Okay.
DNA replicating within a shell, and DNA making messenger RNA for protein. The sequential steps in evolution, evolution in the functions of the DNA as a molecule, as an informational molecule. How does in a molecule all these things happen step by step? These people have been looking into now.
Okay. And the findings in the research is also then feeding into real life situations to say that the effects are so detailed, profound, maybe slow and long term,
Right.
generational. And
Yes,
that
yes.
is why we need to understand how we live and choose to live today.
The epigenetic factors, I told this is not DNA, the first I told about the epigenetic factor.
Right.
The epigenetic factors are mostly in your diet, it goes through your diet.
Okay.
So, lifestyle, diet, live food means salads, fruits, all these things gradually changing the DNA, and it takes, as you said, it takes long time
Right.
to change.
So there is food for the stomach, how we feed our bodies, there's food for the thoughts we think, there's the company we keep, the books we read, the environment we expose ourselves to. All of them are constantly working also through onto our DNA and then onto genetics. I mean, today if we say, you know, it's my life, I can choose to live it the way I want to, actually it's not my life. It is how I'm living my life today which is going to determine so many other lives in the future. So this responsibility that we have as a being towards a larger community of conscious beings yet to arrive, that is deeper, much deeper.
Much deeper. I have a big chapter in a philosophical volume, self and its memes and genes. Self and its memes and genes.
Okay.
Self, memes, genes, information and consciousness. 80 pages chapter
Okay.
in a philosophical volume. So, there I have described the interrelationship of all these possible interrelationships. These are all proposition,
Right.
no experimental work has been done on that, but all my proposition are so coherent and logical. So, I sometimes wonder how is it all happening. You see, it is not just one theory. Theories after theories, connecting after connecting and coherently connecting and making it from supracortical consciousness to you are coming to genes, coming to information, and if you can prove one area, I think
Right.
experimentally, I think you get the whole.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You get the few critical pieces and everything falls into place.
Everything falls into place.
And what is so beautiful is when we look at traditional philosophies across the world, of all traditional old philosophies that are coming through, which have simplified all this from non-technical terms into say, there are these basic things of love, faith, compassion, truth, connectivity, collective intelligence, living for the community, being one with nature. These are simple words. We talk about them, they become cliches for us, but actually it's explaining all this in very simple terms, saying this is how you need to live your life.
I will bring you in another dimension which has come up in science, is the multiple universe.
Yes.
Universe is singular. So, if there are multiple universe, we do not call it universes. We do not call it universes. So, we are very clever human race. They said it is multiverse. If universe, plural of the universe
is multiverse.
Is multiverse.
Okay.
Now, I will come to which I have seen in my Gurudev's letterhead. Neither I knew what it is at that time, nor he explained to me anything. The multiversity. He, in his letterhead, he used to write the multiversity. I never asked what does it mean, or now I understand after maturation, when he is no more, that this multiple universe forms a system which we can call the multiversity.
So, for the limited brain to understand, because we see universe as this so-called real time and space which we exist in, but for us to understand that can we simultaneously exist in many universes?
No.
How does that happen?
You see, you just understand the limits of present science, space, time and energy. You see, the space extends from Einstein's velocity of light to black hole. Science cannot go beyond that space. Time, birth and the death of any event, this is the time. Maybe universe, so it is universal time, it is my time. So, birth and death of any event. And the energy spectrum is that from the 0 point energy to the super force. Super force is again not, has not been, it has been predicted, but it has not yet been
quantified.
Quantified.
Right.
Right. So, this is the closed box of science. This is the closed box. This is it space extends like this, time extends like that, energy extends like that. Now, anything beyond that, according to present science, is not scientific, but nature is not limited by this box. This is our cognitive limitation box.
Right.
That we can cognize up to this level, and nature exists beyond that. Science measures, science observes, science reduces the whole, read its parts. So, science is reductivistic, science is positivistic measurement, and science is objective.
Yes.
Okay. But in consciousness, I cannot observe consciousness, even mind, even life. What is life? I do not know. I cannot observe it, I cannot measure it, I cannot reduce it. These are all irreducible. So, how to make science of all these things? That is the crucial issue. That is the crucial issue. We will not be able to do it by positivistic, objective and reductivistic methodology.
Right.
So, we have to invent some other methodology. Now, Max Planck, the father of quantum mechanics, he decided a scale that so and so centimeter minus 10 to the power so and so and 10 to the power minus 42 second time, we cannot go beyond that. Okay. Quantum mechanics works on that, string theory works within it, but that does not mean nature does not extend beyond Planck's scale.
True.
Here is a very important point.
True.
Now, all living beings, human being, even a small cell, stand at the borderline, nature beyond Planck scale and nature within Planck scale.
Okay.
life stands at the borderline of that nature, which is within Planck scale and beyond Planck scale. So, within, as a human being mature, within as a human being I can do science within Planck scale and I can do abstraction beyond Planck scale. So, there I am spiritual, here I am scientist. So,
here you are limited, there you are unlimited.
there you are unlimited.
It's a tool, like the brain is a tool for the consciousness, science is a tool for understanding so much that is beyond. And the challenge is, because we understand science, we make science the answer. And that's where we struggle even with how we learn and educate ourselves.
Present science work under umbrella of three constants.
Okay.
One is Einstein's constant, that nothing can move faster than the velocity light. So, Einstein made a constant. It excludes simultaneity of event. Planck's constant excludes continuity of event, it is always discontinuous. And there is entropy barrier, negative entropy barrier, which excludes identity of event. Einstein constant excludes simultaneity of event, Planck's constant exclude continuity of events, and entropy barriers exclude identity of events. Now, in the realm of consciousness, mind, life, you can see many events which are continuous, simultaneous and identical.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, we must know the limits of the present science. So, we have to fix up some larger constant. These constants are there. Up to there, we have come to know cognitive ability with our brain, limited brain and limited cognitive ability. We have come to know about nature with this.
So, they serve a purpose.
This serves a purpose, of course,
Yeah.
this serves a purpose.
But let us move beyond, is what you say.
Let us move beyond. And then how do you do it? See, this is all the time bothering me, that how do I do it? What constant I will fix up that to deduce the equations. Equations means relationship.
Okay.
You see, all these equations, two man's equations goes well, so that means the relationship.
Right.
In all equation there is a constant.
Yes.
You see, if you dissolve the constant, there is no equation.
Okay.
Gravitational constant, Einstein constant.
It anchors the equation. The constant anchors the equation.
It is the Planck's constant. So, if you dissolve the constant, so there is no equation, no relationship. So, if we go beyond all this constant, so what should be our constant and how will you express the relationship of mind, life, self? So, we have to find out a way if we want to extend, and how that realm and this realm connected, that has also to be found out. I say here comes the information. Within Planck scale there is space, time, matter, energy.
Okay.
And we do science with it. Very important, isn't it? Everything is important, space, time, matter, energy.
Right.
There are consciousness, self, mind, life. For this side, the local science, this is the non-local side.
Non-local side.
Connecting bridge is the information.
Okay. And how is it generated?
If you ask the information generation, this is another area.
Okay.
So, now it is the information, because you see information is in the matter side, information you see in the silicon chip, so much information has been stored, information is in our mind.
Right.
So, information is connecting the local and the non-local domain. So, that first we have to accept.
Okay.
Okay. Now, science progress usually by 100 years. You see 19th century saw the Newtonian physics. 20th century the relativity and quantum mechanics. 21st century is to develop the science of information. Then 22nd century will know the source of information, that is life. I am answering your question. The source of information is life.
Okay.
And non-living things cannot generate any information. All information, even in real life situation, is generated from life.
True.
So all the informations which are there in the universe must be have generated from life. Now you see, when Ramakrishna touched Vivekananda, Narendra Nath, at that time he was not Vivekananda.
Right.
What he observed or saw is not consciousness, not God. He says everything is pranamoy. So he saw life everywhere. So like consciousness, maybe there is life everywhere. There is an ocean of life, which we call life principle or prana.
Okay.
And life, we mean a life form. When it takes a form, we call it life form, that bacteria, virus evolved to human being like us. So that is life form, and that is life principle. And this is expressed in a materialistic situation.
Right.
So we can call it living state of matter.
Okay.
Life principle, living state of matter in a specifically informed situation with a boundary.
Okay.
Boundary is space time.
Right. Right.
Form, form means space time,
Right.
is forms a life form.
Okay.
This living state of matter, you see, there is a solid, liquid, gas, plasma state, ionic state, hyperviscosity state, superconductor state. These are several state of matter.
Right.
But this living state of matter, the term was coined by a professor of All India Institute. He is no more, Professor R.K. Misra. He was the head of the Department of Biophysics.
Okay.
When we were doing residency, when we were doing MD, he coined the term living state of matter.
Professor Mukhopadhyay, you said that information is the connecting force linked to the life force. What did you envisage about information?
You see, information, if you read the word, information as a form inside, information.
Right.
So form means space and time. So what will bring this information form out?
Okay.
So this is mind. Mind takes out the inside of the information and makes it out as a form.
Okay.
Information's forms comes out, and during that, when it is happening, there is some release of energy also. It is a different kind of energy, information based energy.
Okay.
So I call it information based energy, and the whole phenomenon can be called information split. Information split into form and energy.
Okay.
And who is splitting it? Mind, or mind like structure and process in nature, in cosmos.
Okay.
So if you put that, what is this relationship? We are asking of the equation. I cannot make any equation making anything constant at this level.
Okay.
But one can say the analogy, the information is the father, mind is the mother, and space, time, energy are three children.
Okay.
Information is the father, mind is the mother, and space, time, energy are three children.
Okay.
Here is the revolutionary aspect of my theoretical work. Now, if we can get this information based energy somehow, there will be an energy revolution.
Okay.
We have been talking of matter based energy.
Right.
We have been talking of solar energy, nuclear energy. These are all matter based energy. Solar energy, nuclear energy. Nobody is thinking of information based energy. And information based energy is happening in the brain. You chant a mantra. Mantra is an information on the divine. So when you are chanting a mantra, where from the energy is coming? You can chant mantra after days after days, days after days. So this is information based energy. And what is happening in the brain? One day human brain will externalize it as an equipment. So we will be able to make an equipment where you can get the information splitting and information based energy.
So is that one of the reasons why people who go into long states of meditation need no nutrition?
Less
They
nutrition.
get their energy
from inside.
Okay.
So I get the inspiration from that if it is happening within the brain, I do not know how.
Okay.
So one day the scientist will externalize it, just like we have externalized the mind function as a computer.
And it will become a source.
We have found out, we have externalized the GPS system of the neurons in the GPS system of the mobile. So one day we will be able to externalize our information split in the brain and information based energy into an equipment.
Right.
And that will bring energy revolution.
Right.
That is my prediction.
Wonderful. So tell us, Professor Mukhopadhyay, if the information is the father and the nurturing area is the mind, then in which realm does creativity lie? Because information nurtured by the mind, and is it in this synthesis that individuals become more creative, because we are all different in our creativity?
Mind is sterile without consciousness.
Okay.
And the representative of consciousness within the system is self.
Okay.
Self. You see, the cosmic consciousness is not working all the time in me. It is myself which is working, and this self is knowingly or unknowingly connected with the cosmic consciousness or universal consciousness or trans-universal consciousness or consciousness of the multiverse or the multiversity. You can go high way.
Right.
So, but the representative of consciousness in this thing and the system is self, and mind is sterile without consciousness. So, the creativity remains with self consciousness through mind, manipulating information, creating new space, new time.
And that's why there are so many dynamics and permutations and combinations
right.
and different levels.
Right.
And that's what makes us so different yet the same. You know, so separate yet so connected. Professor Mukhopadhyay, thank you so much for, it's not an easy subject, but it's fascinating for many of us because there's very little we know about that. But you've kind of pushed our boundaries of knowledge and opened up many more frontiers for us. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best with the work that you do.
Thank you.